guys, Mix here, and in today's video we are back with the 1974 MGB engine rebuild. So in last video, we dug very deep into this thing and got the head pulled off, got the crank pulled out, basically just everything that we had to get out. And we have the new crankshaft already in and torqued down, but as I was putting in the rods, I saw that some of them were a little out of whack. And since we've worked on this thing, we found out that it had an oversized crank and oversized rod bearings and everything like this. I had a feeling that the pistons were going to be oversized as well. So that's where we last left off. My first idea was to put new rods, which I ordered, onto the old pistons because I just didn't want to get custom pistons made if they were like everything else on this engine, or I guess machined I should say. But I found out that they are press fit wrist pins, not your usual, C-clip wrist pins. So at that point I just said screw it and I went ahead and ordered pistons for this thing. But before I did that, I found out that my intentions were correct and these have oversized pistons in it. So at first I used this tool just to kind of measure the bore and the original piston, and I saw that it was much bigger than stock. But then I was looking at the piston a little bit closer and I cleaned it up, and you can see right there up top 0.040. So dropped off the rods and pistons at a machine shop a month ago and I just picked them up yesterday. So we are going to putting in the final piece of the puzzle. This thing's gonna have a brand new crank, it's gonna have brand new rods and pistons and bearings all the way around, new oil pump, new seals, just everything. The only thing that would really make me nervous of why this thing would possibly grenade itself again is if the block was tinkered with a little bit. That's my only fear. I don't think it was, but honestly I'm just kind of sending it. We're doing a backyard on a budget rebuild, so we're just gonna see what happens. So in this box I have the 4 new rods and pistons. As you can see how they heated up a little bit, you can see the little heat marks there. There's that nice new piston, county pistons, just like the old one actually. I still do have to put the rings on and everything like that, so we're gonna do that. I just gotta flip this engine over and then we're gonna get straight to work. So let's go ahead and start cranking this thing out. So quick little update, I have the first piston in and just snugged down, not even with the ratchets, just hand snugged on the bottom, as you can see right down there. And I just pulled out the second piston, which is just laying right here and looks pretty much the same as the other one, nothing too crazy. But putting in the pistons has definitely been a longer process than I was hoping, because I've never dealt with rings this difficult to put on. But basically it's just the same step as the last one, just 3 more times. So not really much to talk about, but little by little, once we get these pistons done, then we just move on, and that's really to the full-blown like reassembly part where this thing starts looking like an engine again. So just to kind of show you guys about what I do is, first I just go ahead and lube up these cylinders to hone it, the first step for putting in the piston. So I'm just gonna drop some oil in there and just kind of spread it around with a clean rag. Now I'll take my hone, I'll just put a smidge more lubricant in there, in this case oil, but you can use assembly lube and stuff like that, and you just clamp up the arms, put them in, and you don't have to go crazy, just a couple passes with it and that's all you need. So now I'm just going to wipe it up, and you are going to have some, material that comes off of it. That's all like surface rust and just kind of like stuff that glazes over on the cylinder walls. And that's basically what the hone is taking off. So you get a nice like cross hatching going on and a fresh new surface for the new piston to glide across. And you can do like a fingernail test and kind of just feel the walls. If you feel any pretty good like ridges or bumps, you can maybe hit it again. So now that our cylinder wall is prepared and ready for the piston, now it's going to be the tedious part, and that's putting on the piston rings. So if you guys noticed before, what I did was I put the engine on its side like this, and then I took the oil pan and just simply rested it on the side of the engine, just so I have a nice space, you know, that I don't need to bend down, and I can just, you know, dump oil on the piston, keep it all lubricated, and just put it all back in the oil pan. Alright, so I just got our second piston out, and I'm just going to douse this thing in oil. It's already all cleaned off. And basically, for those of you who have never put on rings or really anything like this, what I like to do is start from the bottom. So on the bottom, you have your oil ring, which has 3 rings total, and then 2 compression rings on top. That's usually how it goes. They're not all like that. Sometimes you only have 1 compression ring on top. But I always like to start with the squeegee one. So that one goes on pretty easily. You usually don't have to worry about snapping that one. And snapping them is a big concern. So now next up you have the 2 smaller oil rings that go with it. You always want to make sure to see if there's any markings to tell which way to go. Like usually it'll say top, or there'd be a dot on it or something. These don't have it, but the compression rings do. So I'm going to put on this bottom one first before the top one, just so I don't get stuck up on it at all. And I just like to jump down 1 ridge at a time. So now when you're about to click in the bottom, just like I just did, you want to make sure that your squeegee ring didn't come like over each other, you know, flat all the way around. And one thing I do, and something you should do for all the rings, is since they have an opening at each end, you want to position each side at least 180 degrees opposite from each other. That's so you don't risk, you know, if the ends are all lined up or close to it, you don't risk oil getting through there. Or as for the compression rings, you don't risk compression escaping. So I'm just going to put on this last top oil ring. Alright, so next up we have our first compression ring to put on. Now I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but right there it says top. So that's just the marking that you want to be very mindful of. And these go on pretty simple. They are a bit stiffer, so they're not as flexible, and you do not want to snap these, which is very common. And same process for the next one. Alright, there we go. So there's the first opening for the top compression ring, and if we go across, there is the second one. So it's 180 degrees opposite from each other to ensure the best seal. Alright, so next up we're going to put on our bearings. So here is the rod cap, and I've already went ahead and cleaned it up and lubricated it all with oil on the surface it is going on and the bearing itself. So now you just kind of want to sit this down in here nice and flushly. Make sure the tab will line up with the little indent in the rod itself, and then you just kind of push down. It's going to click, and then you just want to make sure that it is nice and flush and straight, you know, and all the way down, which it is. So now this is all good to go, and I could go ahead and get the rod itself and put on that bearing, and then we could go ahead and slide it down into the engine. This is kind of the tricky part. This is the ring compressor tool, and basically what I'm going to start off by is lubricating the piston itself, and I've already gone ahead and lubricated the ring compressor, you know, on the inside, all up in there, and the cylinder walls also. So now you want to make sure that you face the piston the correct way, so it says front right here, to the front of the engine, and begin dropping in your piston. So now you're going to slide this over it, and then begin tightening it down, and you want to make sure that your rings stay flush inside of the piston. It might take a few tries, but you do not want to snap a ring or you know, get it stuck when pushing it in. You want to leave a little bit of a lip around the piston itself so it could sit inside of the cylinder. So now you want to take a rubber mallet, or in my case a metal hammer with a rubber end, and hit the outsides of the tool so it could seat itself into the cylinder walls. And you want to do this so when you're hitting down the piston, you don't get a ring that pops out. Alright, so once you think that this is seated down, you can go ahead and just tap the piston lightly. Alright, and there you go. That is how you put in a piston. So now what we're going to do is flip over the engine, and we want to get our rod up to the crankshaft. So I'm just going to hit it from the bottom and guide this up to the rod. You don't want to jam it into this and damage the rod journal, so just kind of go nice and easy. Alright, then you hear it and it won't go anymore. So that is all the way. And now you want to drop your rod cap on there and make sure that the ridges remain on the same side. Sometimes it might be a little bit tough to get it on there, so you may need to tap it, but just kind of keep your hand below there in case the piston goes down with it. So there we go, that was perfect. So now I'm just going to take our 2 nuts and just kind of hand thread them on, and I'm just going to torque them all at once, once all of the rods and pistons are in. And there we go. Alrighty guys, so it is already getting late out. I kind of got a late start to working today. But basically when I pick it up back tomorrow, I'm going to have all the pistons in, the remaining 2. I'm not going to bother recording it because you guys already saw me go through these 2 already. Same process. But then once those 2 are on, the rest is pretty quick, honestly. Just kind of cleaning up the surfaces, getting all the lifters and everything back in, the push rods. Getting the head back on with the new head gasket, and you know, we got to time this thing also, and of course all the other stuff like the oil pump and everything like that. You guys know the deal. But anyway guys, with that being said, I'll catch you all tomorrow. Alright guys, so we are back here the next day, and if you can see behind me, I have all 4 pistons in. So what we need to do now is flip the engine over and go ahead and torque down the rods. And as you guys could also see, I have these 2 little windows out of the side of it. Not windows, you know, little just covers. But I took out all of the tappets, and I just kind of measured them, make sure that they were all the same. And plus, from flipping the engine over and over, they got all discombobulated and they all flew out. So I got them all lined up here, and I kind of just measured them all with that tool just to, you know, make sure I didn't have to order any. But they're all in spec and all good to go. So once I'm done with needing to flip the engine over, and once I'm about to put on like the head with the push rods that'll keep them down, then I'll put them back in, you know, oil them up and put them all in. And I just kind of blew it out before just to clean it out from any debris. And I do have new seals for the covers as well. So guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and torque down these rods. So for this year engine and the 1.8 liter, which is what this is, it gets torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. As you guys just saw, I just finished torquing down the rods. And I also just double-checked the main bearings, and they were still good at 70 foot-pounds. And then once I'm done putting on the oil pump, I'm going to go ahead and put on the head. And then once I'm done with that, I have to recheck the timing. And I have to take this off anyway because I have to put on the back plate. But once I'm done with that, this thing's going to start looking like an engine again. And we're going to get pretty close to being done here. So it is starting to get dark out, but last thing I'm going to do for tonight is just torque down the head. You have to do it in a certain sequence, and I'm going to work, the final torque for this is 50, but I'm going to do 30 and then full all the way around, 40 all the way around, and then end at 50. But these center ones don't get torqued down like head bolts because they're a little bit smaller. These go to 25, but the outside big ones go to 50. So let's go ahead and get that done right now. So guys, the head is all torqued down, and I actually just like spun the whole engine over very slowly because there's no oil in it, and it made full rotations. I didn't feel anything locking up or, you know, getting tight. So that's really good. So what I'm going to do real quick is just get the pulleys all good to go, put the tensioner on, then get that timing chain cover on, and then we'll call it a night because it is getting dark real quick and I still got to clean up. So I'm just going to go ahead and crank that out real quick. Alrighty guys, so we are back here the next morning, and last night I just kind of cranked out what I could. I was working it in the pitch black. But I did get the timing cover on along with the new front main seal. You can see it right in there. I also got the tensioner on, and everything's looking pretty good. Right now, I just have to put on the new valve cover with the new gasket. Gotta take off the old one. And then I could put on the new gaskets and everything and put back on the little covers for the side here. I might pour just a little bit of oil in there before I go ahead and close it up, just so on startup it's not completely dry. I did oil up the tappets, but then once I'm done with that, we can go ahead and flip it over and put on the oil pan. And then once we're done with that, I'm gonna have to take it off of the engine hoist and put on the rear plate, which I still have to clean up, and I have a new rear main seal to go right in there. And then there's also a gasket that goes around this plate, obviously, as you can see, right all around there, which I have, but we're wrapping this thing up. This thing's about to be all back together. Alright guys, so this thing is all put back together, just with the exception of that rear plate right there, but I need to take it off of the stand, and I'm not going to be hoisting it into the car today. I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. So I got to get wood and everything for the hoist to travel on so it doesn't get stuck in the grass like I did before. But anyway guys, with that being said, I'm going to be ending off this video here. Next video should be the first start with it, and I definitely have some surprises to show you guys. A new part that was a little bit expensive, but I splurged, and it should definitely transform on how this thing should run. Off camera, I'm probably going to clean up the engine a little bit, you know, get off all that dirt and grime, but I am feeling pretty confident. I mean, I feel like I did everything to the best of my ability for doing it in my backyard. Really, the only thing that would really make me worried is the timing, but that felt pretty good, and if the block was machined at all to not fit a standard crank, but only time will tell. But anyway guys, with that being said, I'm going to be ending off this video here. Follow my social medias, they'll be in the outro of this video, Instagram and Snapchat as you see most. But thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, tell your friends about the channel.